Welcome to Pet Pals. I'm Dee Dee and this is Randy, and we're here at Frederick County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center on Rosemont Avenue. And as we do every Friday, we are going to show you some animals that are residing in the shelter now, waiting for new homes. And our first guest is Andy, and Andy is a cavy or a guinea pig. They are little rodents from South America that are very popular as children's pets. They are not very athletic, and the pluses and minuses of that should be discussed before you think about getting one. One of the pluses is they're unlikely to escape their cage. They don't need a lot of vigorous exercise, like being walked around the block, for example. And they are somewhat passive. They're smart, they're affectionate, they make very cute little noises, and but also have to be protected from falling off of things because, as I said, they're not very athletic. So if you were interested in getting a small animal for a family pet, you would come to the shelter and look at our small animal book. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Andy, which this is what you would look up when you come to the shelter. Andy is 10 months old, so what you would need to know is how long do guinea pigs live? They can live anywhere from 4 to 10 years, and I know that sounds like an extreme variation, which of course it is. And part of the reason is because they're very dependent on us living in a tiny cage where we provide all of their exercise, food, environment, and what is provided to them, including their medical care, determines how long they live. And sometimes people will say, a guinea pig only costs $10. Why would I take him to the vet for $40? Because you love him and he's part of your family. So the price of the animal doesn't at all reflect his value to your kids, your interest in him, and your commitment to him. But a lot of times people get a free kitten or a free puppy, and that in no way means that they don't need to go to the vet. So this little guy is not making any sounds right now, but there are a few noises they make. One is a whistle they make when you're approaching to feed them. Another one is a little trill they make when they're very happy and snuggling with another guinea pig or with you. And guinea pigs are social, but they're also territorial, so they don't want just any other guinea pig to share their cage space. They only want a guinea pig they know well and trust. Makes sense? So if you want information about taking care of a guinea pig, a really great thing to do is check out Small Angels Rescue. They have tons of information you can get off their website, and they're happy to answer your questions by email. And one thing I wanted to offer is a lot of times people don't know that guinea pigs need environmental enrichment, just a fancy term for stuff to do. And so toys for guinea pigs are important. And one that you can get, which I'm going to let Randy show him, is a little piece of deer antler that's been steam cleaned, because guinea pigs have rodent teeth, and what that means is that for their whole entire life, their teeth grow. So they need things to chew that are safe for them to chew and will wear their teeth down so that they stay healthy. And your vet can look at your guinea pig and tell you if he has any problems with his teeth so that you can stay on top of that. We are back with our next guest, and this is Little Girl. A breed of dog that isn't as popular in Frederick as it is in Louisiana and Texas and Tennessee is a Catahoula leopard dog. She is part Catahoula leopard dog, and they are used as farm dogs for pig herding and help around the farm, watching the kids and barking when intruders come. And they commonly have eyes like she does, which are marbled. They're part blue and part brown. And they're usually blue merle or brindle, and that goes with the eye color. But of course she's not purebred, she's just part Catahoula. And since a lot of people don't recognize the breed here, I thought I would mention that, what they're bred for. Now her other part could be anything, and she could have a lot of skills that aren't readily available. And when you get a dog, one of the first things you're gonna do is try to find toys that enrich her environment, just like you would for the guinea pig. So what you would have to do is you would take a bunch of different toys. This one here is rubber on this part of it, and it's fabric on this part, very strong, so it's hard to take apart, and it squeaks. And obviously she did not care at all about the squeak, so this is a no. Then the other kind of toy you can get is this one. Has a Velcro back, and you put an empty water bottle in here. You could put a full water bottle. You could even put a frozen water bottle if you want to make it a summer treat. And for dogs that like to play with the crinkly water bottle, this can be a great toy. So far, we're not getting anywhere with little girl. She just wants Randy. Then there is stuffed toys. A lot of dogs take them apart and take the stuffing out. That's fine as long as they don't swallow the stuffing and as long as you don't mind cleaning up the trash of the stuffing. But this particular toy has no stuffing in it. So even if the dog tears it, they're not going to be able to pull stuffing out. But what it also has, and it is called Hear Doggy, which is spelled H-E-A-R, what it has, and we'll see if it works, is it has a squeaker that dogs can hear, that people can't hear. And the reason that people like it is because, and she doesn't enjoy it, the reason that people like it is because a lot of dogs like a squeaky toy. But if you have a home office and you're having an important meeting on the phone and all of a sudden, you know, this is going on in the background, then you have to explain, I'm working from home. So this is a toy that a lot of people like. Still working on finding something that she wants. Now, if she was food motivated, this toy is really hard PVC plastic. So most dogs, even strong dogs, cannot break this up. But what you do is you fill this part with food, and it has a little hole in here. So as the dog tosses it around the room, food falls out. So if you have a dog that's motivated by treats, this can keep them occupied for several minutes, if not longer, depending on what you put in here. The reason that these are great toys is because we have a lot of latchkey dogs in Frederick, and what that means is, you know, you work 8 hours a day and you have a commute on either end of that. So you want to think about some things that your dogs can do when you're not home, and this is a great idea. So basically, we didn't find the magic toy for little girl, but I suspect that's because she really wants to be with people. Jackson is our next guest. And Jackson is a black and tan coonhound, and he is a beautiful dog. He's 6 years old, and we have written on his tag that his previous owner would like for him to have room to run, but every dog wants that. But Randy commented when he brought him up here that not only does he need room to run, but the person behind him needs room to flap in the breeze because he's somewhat of a leash puller. Now, one of the things about coonhounds is that they are bred to trail game for miles and miles, so that once they find them, they bay, they sing, and then the hunter can find them and the prey that they're looking for. And whether that is farm vermin, animals that farmers do not want on their property, which coonhounds are good at repelling, or whether it be something that a hunter would want to capture for food sources. That's what these dogs are bred for. So a game that you can play with them is taking these kind of toys that you can hide food in. This one is soft, and you can stuff milk bones or pepperoni in the little holes. You could put something in this toy like canned dog food or peanut butter. The one thing you would have to be okay with, though, is running it through your dishwasher. And some people don't like to put dog things and people things in the dishwasher together. So if you don't like that, then make sure you only use dry foods with this, because it would get gunky. You can also use this one. It has a rope in it that pulls in and out, and you stuff the food in the opening, and then as the dog swings it around, the food pops out randomly. You can use dry dog food so that doesn't get messy, and that can occupy him for a long time. With a coonhound, once he's used to this toy, you can also hide the toy someplace in the yard so that he has to find it before he can even play with it. You can also, this is another buddy toy that you can make difficult or easy depending on how far you unscrew it and what kind of food you put in it. This one is great for puppies because it's not rock hard. They're not going to break their teeth on it, but a really strong dog could chew it, could break it. And the last two food hiding toys are, believe it or not, you can actually buy a stick now. The oldest dog toy in the world, the stick, is now for sale. but this particular one is hollow, so you can put food in it to make it interesting for the dog. You can also wash it. It's flexible, so you don't want to use it with the tough chewers. And this last one is a little bit controversial, and I'll tell you why. It's a bone, it's a sterilized bone, so it's perfectly clean, and you hide food in the hollow part. The reason it can be a problem for some dogs, they can break their teeth on it, it can develop sharp edges like this one has, and depending on the size of your dog's jaw, they could get stuck in here. So you want to be careful if you use a toy like this that it is okay with your vet, and that you know your dog really well and you know what his behaviors are. You also shouldn't give a dog anything like this when you're not supervising, just in case even a dog that's completely used to it finds out some new use. Oh yeah, Randy just reminded me, for puppy teething, you can freeze stuff in it and in any of these hollow toys because it's soothing to their gums. So it's nice in the summer also for adult dogs. Just make sure whatever toys you choose, you ask your vet and you know your dog. This is our next guest, Sam, and Sam is clearly a beagle. And because Sam's history is that he was part of a hunting pack, his main job was to live with a bunch of dogs in a yard and to go out on the weekends or in the week and harass and chase rabbits off of the property or for hunters to capture. And one of the difficult things for hunting dogs coming to the shelter, well, first of all, I'll tell you the easy thing. We have them live in a kennel with a bunch of dogs just like they're used to. That's no problem for them. We handle them and feed them, also no problem for them. They pretty much, the only interactions they have with people are hunting and being fed and cleaned up after, which is typical of here. But we have a core of volunteers and our staff that takes the dogs out every day to get them ready for their new home. And Sam's never walked on a leash. So we are working with him on not being afraid of that. And shiny floors, he's never seen that. I would suspect he's never seen any stairs. So the reason that the people gave him up is they said they had too many unneutered males in their dog pack, and there was some fighting between the boys. So they thought getting rid of one of the boys might help level things out. So it will be really hard to find toys that he likes because what he really wants to do is search for the smell of rabbits. So one of the things that might work out great for him is hiding food in the yard that he can find. You can also get toys for dogs like a sheepskin or rabbit skin toy that they can play with. Sometimes wool toys work. You can also get all these kinds of rolling toys. Because these toys move, that one has a squeak. He doesn't seem to be interested. Passed him by, doesn't seem to be interested. I will say in Sam's case, he's very nervous. Randy's comforting him and he's blinking and swallowing, so he's not that traumatized, but he's afraid of the shiny floor, not used to the leash. So it's taken Randy a minute to get him, comfortable with being in a new place. But one of the things that you might be able to try for him is this toy is a tennis ball. So it's very hard on the inside and can't really be chewed up, but it's covered with fake fur. So he might like that. Another toy, this one is pretty indestructible, but it's scented. It smells like baby powder. So he might like it because it smells differently. Nope. And he also might like it because it rolls differently. So it has the movement more prey-like. So he might be interested in that. And if you do get tennis balls for a dog, one of the things to think about is getting tennis balls that are made for dogs. And the reason I say that is this tennis ball is made for dogs and it's solid inside. It doesn't have pressurized air, which if a dog is strong enough to break a tennis ball, they can get hurt on the pressurized version. You can see if a squeaky toy helps. Nope. There are balls on a string, so you can make the ball game into tug of war. And then there is this toy, which actually moves around by itself. So some dogs like that. So it can be a challenge to find toys that motivate your dog, but it's definitely worth trying to find something that they like that you can play together. Our next guest is Riley. Now, we have several Chihuahuas in the shelter right now, and sometimes people say that they're surprised that we get so many Chihuahuas, but we're going to see in the shelter any dog that's popular, because the more Chihuahuas there are as pets, the tiny percentage of them that end up with no home is the same as other breeds. And Chihuahuas are really popular. So we do get a fair number of Chihuahuas. Right now we have a Chihuahua mix named Mercy. She's 14. You guys have seen her before. We have 2 tiny Chihuahuas that need to be adopted as a pair who are going to be adopted this weekend. Riley actually has an interview later today, but I'm not sure if that's going to be finalized into an adoption. We never know until we actually sit down and talk to people. Because she's tiny, she's got a lot going for her. She's 7, so she has experience. And I think she's going to make someone a great pet. But one of the things that people need to know about Chihuahuas is that although they're tiny, they can be a little bit stubborn. And so you have to be prepared for a house training challenge in the beginning. They don't all have the same personalities, obviously, but some Chihuahuas, more often than not, don't like it when it's very cold, don't like to go very far away from home. And you have to think about, what is your lifestyle? What do you picture doing with your dog? And does the dog that you're looking at want to do the same thing? Because they don't really have any say once you adopt them. So it's important that you think about them and can you offer them the type of lifestyle they need. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to be back with some adoptable cats at Frederick County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center on Rosemont Avenue. Hope you stay with us.
Did you know a person can have colorectal cancer and yet have no symptoms? Symptoms of colorectal cancer may include bleeding, blood in the stool, abdominal pain or mass, and changes in bowel movements. Ask your doctor if you should be screened for colorectal cancer. Call the Frederick County Health Department at 301-600-3362 for more information or for free colorectal cancer screening for eligible individuals.
And our first 2 cats, this one and the one you're going to see following, Tom and Jerry, were adopted from the shelter about a year ago, and then they were returned because the owner said their work hours changed and they didn't have time for the cats anymore. I don't know the whole story, but as a rule, cats don't care if your work hours change. They're pretty independent, and since they use a litter box, they don't depend on you for walks. But it can be, travel. You can't be gone overnight a lot with cats. It's not fair to them. Should they spill their water shortly after you leave, you don't want them to go too long without a drink. So there can be many reasons that you decide to give up your pets. But that one, I'm sure there's more to the story than work hours changed, because they have each other. Tom and Jerry live together. They also lived with a dog. So if you are interested in finding a cat that has dog experience, these guys both do. And one of the things when you adopt a cat, or 2 cats in this case, you're going to need to get a cat carrier. So it's important to look at them carefully. You can't just walk into the superstore and pick the cheapest carrier, especially for kitties like this, because even though Tom and Jerry are only 1.5, they're big, hefty, strong cats. So you're going to need a carrier that has some strength to it. This carrier is put together by latches. Some carriers are put together by bolts, and the advantages and disadvantages are obvious. Latches are easy to take off. You can't lose the pieces. But one of the problems is that they can also come undone. So whenever you use the carrier, You want to check it, make sure all the parts are in place. The other thing that this carrier has is it has this little hook in the back so that you can hook a string to it. This one's not on wheels, so you have to carry it. And these little flaps in the top are where you could put treats and some paperwork. The door opens and closes with a thumb and finger action right here. And I like these doors because they have one hinge side, one latch side, and they're pretty hard to come open by accident. So just things to think about when you're choosing the carrier for your cat. And 2 cats the size of Tom and Jerry cannot both fit in one of those. So that's also something to think about, the size of your cat, and can they turn around in there? Yeah. This is Jerry, and Jerry and Tom have lived together since they were adopted as kittens. And for cats that are adopted here young and go to a home, they learn that house, and as I said, they lived with a dog and with each other and with people. And that's all they ever know if they're indoor-only cats, which they were. So coming back to the shelter in one aspect is okay because they've been here before, but in another aspect, it's hard because what they find out is they're placed in the carrier. They leave the only home they've ever known here to a new home. They're placed in the carrier, taken to the vet and brought home, placed in the carrier and then brought here. So you can imagine what they think about cat carriers. And both Tom and Jerry were reluctant to go in, reluctant to come out. And then when we offered the carrier up to Tom at the end of the segment, he was okay with going back in. But sometimes it's hard to imagine what it's like for the cats because of course we can sympathize. Getting in a cat carrier would be frightening for us because it's tiny, confined, and someone else is in control. But for cats, it's even more so because they have the recorded information that each time they get in a carrier, they come out on basically another planet. So what you can do for your cat is you can keep your carrier out in your house, like in a guest room maybe, or in a finished basement with toys in it, with food in it. You can make the carrier not the big deal that it signifies for cats who only get to see the carrier when you move to a new house, when you take them to the vet, all associated with scary changes. So you can do your cat a big favor by making that association go away, making the carrier a more pleasant thing, as well as not necessarily only seen during challenging times. My sister has a cat who, if you even kick the carrier in the coat closet by accident, oh, he'll be gone for the rest of the day. You will not find him. So it's important to take away that kind of traumatic association or powerful association. I won't say traumatic because some cats aren't at all. They know very well what the carrier means going to the vet, which they don't like, so they avoid it. So it's something to think about for your cat's comfort because should you need to leave your house for an emergency, like evacuation or something, you don't want to have that challenge where you take out the carrier and now you have to chase the cat all over the house. So planning in that way so that your pets don't make an association that is only negative with things you need to use. Our next guest is Bane. And Bane is, as you can see, a beautiful long-haired cat. And he is about a year old. And the reason he's here is his owner went away to college and she didn't have someone who could keep him for her. And a lot of colleges where you are living residentially don't allow pets. And a lot of apartments that you can afford when you're also paying for school are very restricted in what they let you do. You also can get in a situation where you're going to share an apartment with other people that you've just met. And if they have allergies or if they already have a pet, it can be a challenge to keep a pet through your young life. Now, we certainly do not discriminate against adopters based on the fact that they're young, but we're going to ask you questions if you come in to adopt, where you think you're going to live in 5 years, what will you do if landlords have pet restrictions. And last week we talked about what you can do about preparing for a move. And that is gather all your information, vet records, trainer information, previous landlord recommendation that you're a good pet owner and that the pet didn't cause any trouble in your rented space. All things you should think of before it's a crisis, because it is not that easy to find a second home for an animal. We are expert at it. We do the best we can with the number of animals that we get. But for someone to do that themselves can be pretty complicated. And of course, we welcome you to call us and ask us for tips. You can check on rescue sites, what they recommend doing. Some people take a chance and use Craigslist, but you know it's risky because you don't always know who's answering and who's seeing your information and where you live, and pictures of your pet have pictures of your house and belongings in them. So it is something to think about if you're going to try to find a new home for a pet. I definitely recommend getting expert advice before you try it, just to rule out some of the easy mistakes that you can make. But in Bane's case, as you can see, loving cat, confident, outgoing, and sometimes people ask us specifically for a lap cat like Tom and Jerry, or they want a cat that doesn't need that like Bane. He's not going to need to sit on you all day. He has stuff to do. Our next guest is Gizmo, and I want to remind you guys that we have kittens. Sometimes it's easy to overlook that because this time of year we always have plenty, and anyone who's been to the shelter has seen all of them. But this little girl, our only girl cat of the day, is a tortoiseshell, kind of a smoke version of tortoiseshell, quite pretty, little 4-month-old. And as with all of our kittens, we're gonna spay her and microchip her and vaccinate her. She has been vaccinated. And we're going to give you a coupon for her rabies shot, all for $97.50. Oh, test her for leukemia. It is a great deal to get a kitten from the shelter because you're saving a lot of money on that first vet visit. Now, obviously, over her life, she costs the same as any other cat. It's just a way to encourage you to think of the shelter first. If we have what you want, then we're very happy when you get a pet from the shelter.
Let them know we have a grown-up version of Gizmo too.
Oh yeah, Randy reminded me we have another Gizmo, a long-haired black kitty. And usually any kind of cat that you want, if you come to the shelter 2 or 3 times, you're going to find exactly what's a good match for you and what you're a good match for. Gizmo is our pet of the week, which means you can see additional footage of her playing with a feather toy where she's quite active, speedy, and coordinated, as opposed to her snuggly mood where she is, this is after playing, where she's very comfortable to be with Randy. She's a great kitten. She's going to make somebody really happy, and we just want to make sure that you know that there are still kittens here. Yeah, Randy mentioned that her fur is really soft. And you don't really think about that when you are thinking about getting a cat, but cat coats are very different. Some cats have a very short, stiff coat. Some cats have a very short, plush, like rabbit fur coat. It doesn't mean that they'll shed more or less based on that alone. But you definitely want to meet a couple of cats to see what you think. So thank you for joining us on Pet Pals. We always enjoy bringing you animals that you may adopt, and you know what to do if you're not going to adopt. You're going to find her profile on Pet Tango, you're going to find her video on Facebook, and you're going to either print out or share it on social media so more people can find out she's here, and all of the other animals that were on the show today will be able to get homes. We'll make room for more animals, which you will see here on Pet Pals. Thanks for joining us.